Hello and welcome. The post-Trump world is of some concern to the information technology services industry in India, but could there be problems even beyond Trump, including in countries like within Europe or countries like the United Kingdom? Let's ask someone who does business with the UK and to a large extent, Arvind Thakur, CEO of NIIT Technologies. Arvind, thank you very much for speaking with us. So I'm going to come to the UK part in a little bit, but tell us about what's your the many headwinds that the information technology services sector is facing. Geopolitics is one of them.
Yes.
What are the other ones first, and then we'll talk about how you're trying to fight them.
Well, I think the fundamental challenge that the industry has is in transforming its business model itself from its earlier value proposition, which was essentially around cost arbitrage, into a proposition where we are looking at delivering customer value. So that requires many changes which need to be done within organizations, and I think the biggest challenge in being able to do that is to fundamentally change the culture itself of the way we operate, where so far we've been used to doing what we are told to do well, to identifying opportunities of value add. So I think the business model change is a big challenge, and of course the second challenge is geopolitics, where essentially we are beginning to see more nationalism with the heads of government, and obviously that kind of impacts policies associated with mobility of people, and that also has an impact on the industry.
Right. So we've been, for instance, focusing a lot on the H-1B problem in the US, but tell us about Europe and countries like the United Kingdom. How are they looking at this, and are they, they may not respond or act in the same way, right?
Well, we're beginning to see signs of that in the UK as well, where we are seeing changes to their immigration policies as well. And I think this is where the government has to play a role, particularly when they are looking at trade negotiations. And I think when Prime Minister May came to India to discuss trade, that was one of the points which the government also brought onto the table, that we can discuss trade, but you also need to look at your immigration issues and movement of people.
So what's your outlook then? Are you, I know UK is a fair part of your business, so you've got the UK part, but you've also the digital transformation part which you're talking about. So between the challenges that you face internally and the ones externally, how are you looking ahead this year?
Well, I think very clearly when we're looking at restrictions likely to happen on movement of people, you have two choices. One is engage with your clients and get them to offshore more. Or the other is to focus a lot more on localization in terms of building people and developing them in on-site locations.
And what's the response been in your conversations in the last 3 months or so with your clients in UK?
Well, as far as our clients in the UK are concerned, they are not concerned with this.
And they're okay to offshore more and...
Yes, I think they're just fine. In fact, many of them are driving offshore very significantly. Particularly, I think they're concerned about their own cost structures and financial issues. So therefore, I don't think there'll be any letdown in that activity.
So between, let's say, the US market and Europe, UK, how would you rank the two? In terms of, let's say, willingness on the part of customers or to your clients there in either of these countries to actually work more closely with you to solve the problem?
Well, I think both these markets, it's the businesses, which determine, how government policy is shaped. And I think as far as businesses are concerned, they are prudent in terms of how they want to engage with their partners. And it's really up to the partners to see how they need to adjust their business models to be able to address these external factors which are now coming into play.
Right. So you're saying both countries or both blocks are somewhat similar then? It's not like one is more proactive or clients in one are more proactive than the other?
I think it's a phenomena which is common across the developed world, I would say.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the digital transformation part. So if you could use an illustration to say, what was a client typically asking for 5 years ago? What is that client asking for today, which you have to in some ways reskill, retrain, and deliver to that customer?
Well, 5 years ago, customers would typically tell us what they wanted. They wanted a a customer acquisition system or cash management system, they would be very clear in their own minds in terms of what would be the specifications, and we would essentially have to use our capabilities to deliver it faster, cheaper and better than anybody else in the world, which is something we did extremely well with the engineering and process capability that we had in the industry. But with the consumerization of technology and these new emerging digital technologies, customers themselves don't know what they want, and so they're expecting their technology partners to lead them on this journey to the digital era. And that requires changing our mindset, as I mentioned earlier, from doing what we are told to do to identifying opportunities of value add. And this to my mind is a fundamental culture shift. So while companies are building capabilities, and in fact building capabilities is not an issue for the industry, or acquiring capabilities to be able to address the digital challenge, to my mind changing the culture would be a bigger challenge. And to that extent, I think there needs to be a change which needs to be brought about in the mindset of the entire workforce to be able to operate more effectively in the new digital world.
So give me an illustration, so which says that, okay, here's an automotive company that wanted this, or came to us, or we went to the automotive company, and how would shifting the mindset allow people to offer the solution that they're looking for?
So, we're working with a client which is in the business of providing chauffeur-driven services, and the largest provider of chauffeur-driven services in the world. So obviously in the world,
that's a case study you've got, I think, on your website as well.
Right. Yeah, so in that world, obviously that world is severely challenged with the likes of Uber, and they need to change their business model. So now they engaged us to number one, show us a roadmap on how do we take them, digital. Then conceptualize the platform, which is a mobile platform, that would enable them to, address this challenge. So the focus actually has shifted earlier, which was around improving efficiency, cost structures, now to how do we help our customers improve their revenues. So there it requires a different method of engagement, a different mindset and a different set of capabilities.
Right. So I know that this seems to have been a successful assignment, but would there be more challenging ones that you are currently pitching for or working on, which maybe, let's say, place a greater call on intellect or the ability to think left brain, right brain?
Well, I think in almost all the engagements that we have, where we are helping our clients orchestrate new digital processes, while we have a deep understanding of the technology and the platforms to enable them to do that, they are now looking towards us to develop the user experience and the interface which would be attractive for their potential customers.
Because everyone has used a Uber, and therefore I want this experience to be similar.
Yeah. So the focus is shifting from engineering to delivering a great experience. And so to deliver a great experience, you need creative capabilities. So I think that's another shift that we are finding that we need to cope up with, because as an industry, as an organization as well, we have strong engineering skills, and now we need to build strong creative skills and capabilities in our organizations as well.
Right. So, and if I were to ask you, if you were to look at the next year, what are the three things that you are focused on in terms of maybe opportunities, windows, as well as concern areas or challenges?
Three things are as follows. Number one is we need to drive a lot of efficiency and productivity and automate everything that can be automated. So first focus is on what we term as smart IT. So we put together our automation platform and we are refining that platform. So the focus is moving away from putting bodies against problems to putting holistic solutions against problems. The second, as I mentioned to you, is to drive a change in culture. So That's extremely important, because in the digital world, in the old world, we needed to understand our customers. But in the digital world, we need to understand our customer's customer. Okay, only then can we provide them with solutions that can help drive their revenue. So that's the second focus, changing our culture, changing the mindset of every individual in the organization to be able to identify opportunities of value add. And the third is to scale digital. Traditional business lines are obviously impacted as we look at new digital opportunities, and this we are doing both through organic as well as inorganic needs.
Right, Mr. Thakur, thank you so much for speaking
Pleasure.
with us. Thank
Pleasure,
you.
Govind.